Welcome everyone. For today's tutorial, we'll be demoing the new OpenStreetMap Data Wizard, part of Simple GIS Client version 9. This Data Wizard allows you to easily create detailed street maps from OpenStreetMap data and also combine it with data from the U.S. Census Bureau to create fully routable and geocoded detailed street maps. There are a couple of ways to access this new Data Wizard. The first way we'll demo for this tutorial is actually by creating a new project file from a project template. So in this case, we went to our new project menu, and in our project templates window, we're going to find and select the regional maps tab. On this tab, we want to locate the project template labeled Street Map, Local Routable, and Geocoded Detailed Street Map. As we click on this template, we'll see in the description below that this template will download and create a routable and geocoded local detailed street map based upon the states that we select. The data is downloaded and provided by OpenStreetMap and their contributors and the U.S. Census Bureau. If we double click on this project template, it creates a new empty project file and it opens the OpenStreetMap Data Extract Wizard. From here, we'll note that one of the notes immediately is that these are large data sets, so you need to take that into consideration and allow time for downloading and processing of these data sets. From here, we're going to find our state of interest. So for the purposes of this demo, I'm going to select the state of Louisiana, and I'll click on this state. And then the next thing we need to select is a folder from which to extract this data to and also create our project file in. In this case, I have a folder already created on my C drive called Simple GIS Data, and I'm actually going to create a subfolder underneath here. So I'll create click on the New Folder button, and in the dialog box that appears, I'm just going to give it a name for this new folder. So I'm just going to call it Louisiana Street Map and click OK. And we now see that it has added this new folder underneath that Simple GIS Data folder. So this is where it will extract all of our data files and create our new project file. In addition, we also need to set some defaults for our routing. As I mentioned, this will create a fully routable street map. By default, the OpenStreetMap data has speed limit information on many of its road segments. However, there is at times some missing data in these road segments. So underneath the routing settings, we can actually set defaults for the different road types that Simple GIS will use in case the speed limit information is missing. So for instance, for interstate, the default speed limit would be set to 70 if any particular interstate road segment was missing its speed limit information. In addition to that, we can assign weights to these speed limits by the road type. And so the weight just takes into account, based on the road type, the average travel speed on that type of road. So for example, on an interstate, we've set the weight to 1 because the average speed we assume will be pretty close to the speed limit. Whereas on other road types, this weight decreases to a value less than 1. This is to account for traffic, red lights, stop signs, etc. So for instance, if we look at secondary roads, our default speed limit is 35 miles per hour, and our weight that we've assigned to this is 0.9, which means the average travel speed we assume will be 90% of the speed limit. Now, any of these values can be overwritten by simply clicking in the appropriate cell and typing in a new value, but this is the default. The other option is the geocode options. So this tool will actually pull data from the U.S. Census Bureau. So the first option, of course, is do not create a geocode database. The second option is to geocode with city-state, which simply means it will convert any zip code information into a city name value and use that in its geocoding. And the data it uses for this, it pulls the latest Tiger data from the U.S. Census Bureau for the state you have selected. The third option is to geocode with the zip code, which is by default the Tiger data has zip code information in it. So if you wanted to use that in your geocoding, you would just select that option. And then finally, in this case, by default, it is checked since we've created this from a new project template. But this create new street map project. So it's actually going to create a new project in the folder that we selected above. And as we click apply, it creates the new project file, and it actually begins the download process for the OpenStreetMap data and also some of the data from the U.S. Census Bureau. So it is extracting it to the folder that we selected, and we see the status at the bottom of the dialog box. So we see right now it has started its downloading process for downloading the OpenStreetMap data for Louisiana. As the download progresses, we see the status changing. And as I noted above, this is large data sets, so you have to be patient and allow time for this download and to process this data. It doesn't take too long, but it does take a little bit of time to download and process this data. So at this point, we're going to pause the video and we'll return when this download completes. So here we have the project file after the download is completed, downloading and processing. And I can now see that I do have information in my map data view document. As I see, I have the state boundary, and I actually also have the county, or in this case parish boundary, since we're in Louisiana. Basically parishes are the equivalent of counties. But that information is in here, and that information actually comes from U.S. Census data that is supplied with simple GIS when it's installed. But as I scroll in, I also see that in addition to state and parish boundaries, as I continue to zoom in, I also have zip code tabulation area boundaries that also is supplied from the U.S. Census Bureau. In addition, I see that I have my roads, my waterways, all of these other detailed features that were downloaded from the OpenStreetMap and processed. And as I continue to zoom in, I see that I get greater and greater detail, so I can actually start seeing building footprints, all of these secondary roadways. And as I continue to zoom in, I even start to see points of interest, parks, natural features. So all of this information that came from the OpenStreetMap download, even points of interest like restaurants, monuments, museums, all of that type of information that came through. So all of this detailed railways, so a pretty detailed street map at this point. In addition, as I mentioned, it does geocode if you select it to geocode in your options when you created this data set. So it uses all of the county names, city names, in addition to street addresses that comes from the U.S. Census Bureau's Tiger data. So I'm going to zoom out here to where the parishes become visible, or counties in other states, as you may know them. So if I now simply come here to my locate box and I type in the name of a parish or county, as I hit enter, I see that it locates that county or parish, in this case, on the map. In addition, I could enter in a city name and hit enter, and it would locate that city on the map as well. And of course, as I continue to zoom in, I see more and more details again. So all of the labeling and the detail and the legends are set up by default by the project template we selected when we said to create this street map. And in addition, I could come here and I could actually enter in a street address. Again, this was geocoded using the latest Tiger data from the U.S. Census Bureau. So as I enter the street address and hit enter, it locates the street address at this point. So now I'm going to demonstrate the routing capability. So I'm going to click on our routing tool located here. It just looks like this house symbol button. And if I hover my mouse over it, it shows simple GIS routing box. And as I click on this tool, I see that it resizes my map window and it adds a new dialog box next to it. It's called the Simple GPS Routing dialog box. In this box, I can enter in a starting location by either typing in a street address, or if I had my GPS connected, I could actually click on the use current position and it would fill in the lat long of my current position as my starting location. Same thing for final destination, and then for any stops I wanted to make along the way, I could actually type in street addresses or lat long coordinates. Or, as I'm on a demo here, I can actually use this tool to actually just select a point from the map. So in this case, I'm just going to go and click a point on the map, and you see that it populates the lat long coordinate. So I'm entering that for my starting from location. I'm going to enter my final destination. And in this case, I'm going to just demo showing that I'm going to make a couple of stops along the way. So what I want to do is calculate a route that's going to start from my start location and pass through a couple of stop points along the way before I end up at my final destination. So I'll click a point on the map, and then I click the plus button to add it to my stops along the route. And I see that it actually is just entering the lat long coordinates since I'm just selecting points from the map. And as I click on these, it'll actually zoom and show those locations on the map. I also want to select to optimize the order of my stops for the quickest route. So what it's going to do is I hit calculate route. You see that it actually calculated a route from my starting location, passing through all of the points that I'd added as stops, and finally ending up at my destination. And then it ordered the stops in such a way to make the most efficient route. So as you see, not only did we have a geocoded detailed street map, but we also have a fully routable street map here. And in fact, if I had an external GPS receiver connected, if I was running Simple GIS on a laptop or a Windows tablet, I could actually connect to the GPS device, and I could actually use this to get turn-by-turn navigation by simply clicking on the Start Navigation tool, as long as I had my GPS receiver connected and it was receiving a signal. So now let's assume that we've created our detailed street map project, but now we just want to refresh the OpenStreetMap data and maybe the US Census data in the project. Maybe it's been a while since I first created it. So to do that, to refresh the data, we're simply going to go to our pull-down menu at the top of our project window. We want to locate the US Census data menu, and as we click on this menu, we'll see the second selection, OSM Data Extract Wizard. And as we click on this option, we get the familiar dialog box that we got when we first created our project. But in this case, we simply want to refresh our data. So we're going to go and we're going to select our state of interest again, which was Louisiana in this demo. Make sure that we have the same folder selected where we originally extracted our data and created our project in. And then if we wanted to change any of the default speed limits or weights, we could certainly do so, or any of the geocoding options. But we want to make sure that this Create New Street Map project, we do not want to have this box checked. In fact, we already have our project created, so all we're wanting to do is just refresh our data. And in fact, we may have added some other data to our project that we wouldn't want to lose. So just make sure that this checkbox is not checked, and then click Apply, and it'll basically begin the process again of downloading the OpenStreetMap data and the appropriate US Census data, the Tiger data, for the geocoding option you have selected, and it'll simply refresh the data in your project. So it's just a way of keeping your project fresh, keeping the data fresh in your project. So with that, that concludes our tutorial for today. And as always, for any other information, just visit simplegis.software.com.